Hello everyone, wishing you a happy day. Today I will continue telling you the story of Lytudiep. After 3 days that felt like 3 years, the whole city held its breath following the mysterious disappearance of little Ivy. The authorities, friends, and family all threw themselves into the search. Tieu San barely slept for 3 nights, her eyes swollen and her voice hoarse from crying and calling her child in vain. Whenever she heard a child's voice on the street, she would run over, clinging to the faint hope that it might be Ivy. Then on the morning of the 3rd day, as people were preparing to continue the search in the outskirts, a call from the investigative unit rang through. The police officer's voice broke with emotion. "Miss Tieu San, we found the child. She's safe, just a little frightened." In that moment the world seemed to stop turning. Tieu San collapsed, crying and laughing at the same time, repeating, "Thank God, my child is alive." When she arrived, she saw Ivy sitting in the arms of a female officer, her clothes a little disheveled, hair in tangles, her face pale but her eyes still clear. Unable to restrain herself, Tieu San ran forward and hugged her daughter tightly. The two of them sobbed uncontrollably in front of the crowd. "My child, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't protect you." Ivy nestled into her mother's shoulder and whispered, trembling, "Mom. I was so scared. I thought you wouldn't find me." No one could hold back their tears. The scene hushed those around them, leaving only the soft wind and the stifled sobs of the mother and child. After the formalities were completed, Tieu San took her daughter home. She decided to let Ivy take time off from school so she could recover emotionally. The little house filled again with children's laughter, the smell of chicken porridge, and the sweet scent of flan that Tieu San made herself. She told stories to her daughter, sang her to sleep, and never let her out of sight. When Ivy flinched awake from nightmares, calling Mom with tears, Tieu San would hold her tightly and softly sing, "Sleep well, my dear, Mommy is always here." By day she would take Ivy to stroll around the little garden behind the house, showing her newly blossomed flowers and fluttering butterflies. Tieu San tried to rebuild her child's sense of safety through small, everyday things like these. News that Ivy had been rescued quickly spread through the neighborhood. Everyone was relieved, it felt like a great weight had been lifted from their hearts. Trang, Sun's younger sister, burst into tears upon hearing that her niece had returned safely. She hurried to her mother, breathless and excited. "Mom, Ivy's back. She's safe, everything's okay." Their mother slumped into a chair, her hands trembling as she gripped her daughter's hands. "Heaven be praised, it's finally over." Poor child, so young and had to endure such fear. Trang nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I just hope from now on everyone can live in peace, and that hatred or jealousy won't hurt anyone again." That afternoon, soft sunlight streamed through the window and fell across Ivy's small face as she slept in her mother's arms. Tieu San gently stroked her daughter's hair, a rush of emotion swelling inside her. She knew life would never be the same as before, but at least, she still had her child, the most precious thing in her life. She whispered, "Thank you for coming back to me. Thank you for being strong, my little Ivy." Outside, the autumn breeze still stirred gently, carrying a soothing warmth like a consolation from the heavens, that after the storm, happiness can still take root if we keep believing and loving. After being arrested, Lynn was taken to the city police station for questioning. The interrogation room was lit by a cold white light that reflected off her pale face, tangled hair, and bloodshot eyes. 2 investigators sat silently in front of her, watching her every expression. But unlike typical offenders who bow their heads and confess, Lynn raised her chin defiantly, her gaze full of challenge. From the start of the interrogation she poured out a torrent of bitter, accusatory words, as if she were the victim. "You don't understand anything. Lin spat, pounding her hands on the table. Tieu San and Sun ruined my life. I did it all so they would pay. If Sun hadn't left me, if Tieu San hadn't interfered, I wouldn't be like this. The investigator looked at her in a calm but firm voice. Ms. Lin, abducting an innocent child cannot be called revenge. It's a crime. But Lin became increasingly agitated, her eyes widened, her voice echoed across the room. I'm not wrong. I only wanted them to taste the suffering I've endured. They drove me crazy and took everything from me. It's their fault, not mine. The more she spoke, the more she lost control. Her fury turned into manic laughter and then into choked tears. Those tears were no longer remorse, they were hatred pushed to the brink. Seeing the situation escalate, the investigator signaled his subordinate. Hold her back, don't let her get more riled up. Two officers moved to restrain Lin, but she still struggled, screaming like a deeply wounded person. It's not my fault. They are the guilty ones. I hate them. I hate you all. Lin's cries echoed through the detention corridor, reverberating in the cold, silent space. Some of the on-duty staff merely shook their heads. They had encountered many criminals, but few clung to such blinding hatred. That night, in a cramped cell, Lin curled up in a corner. Rain pattered against the metal door, making the atmosphere even more bleak. Weak light from a bulb fell on her tired face, but her eyes still flashed with anger and despair. She muttered to herself, nearly talking to her own reflection. They will pay. I'm not wrong. I only want justice for myself. A female officer on patrol stopped outside and looked in, speaking coldly. You should prepare yourself. Investigators have uncovered leads about the network behind you. You're not the only one they've arrested. That remark made Lin freeze. She lifted her head, her expression briefly trembling. But immediately her face hardened and a crooked smile appeared. What network? You don't understand. It was all forced on me. Her voice grew fainter and then faded into the stillness. Only the sound of rain and the flicker of light on the damp wall remained. Outside, investigators began to expand their files and trace those who had helped Lin plan. Someone who had provided financial support and information was gradually being exposed. As for Lin, confined within the four cold walls, she did not know that her life had officially plunged into an abyss with no way out. All her justifications and resentments could not save her from the sentence to come, a sentence not only from the law, but from her own conscience. The next morning the sky was an unusually clear blue after days of steady rain. Sunlight slipped through the window and fell on little Ivy's face as she slept soundly in her mother's arms. Tieu San sat beside her, gently stroking her soft baby hair, her heart still trembling after the terrifying days they'd been through. Just then, there was a knock at the door. Tieu San opened it. It was Hai. He stood there in a neat suit, though his face looked tired. His eyes were full of sympathy and relief as he looked at the mother and child. I heard Ivy is safe, so I came to visit. I've been so worried these past few days, Hai said, his voice low and sincere. Tieu San nodded slightly and managed a weak smile. Thank you. Thanks to everyone's help, my child and I can still be together. Hai came in, placed a small bouquet on the table, and sat down beside her. He watched Ivy for a moment, then said, I just came from the investigative unit. Lin, she refuses to confess. She screamed, slammed the table, cursed, even claimed that all of this is because of you and Sun. Hai's voice softened. I can't understand how someone educated, someone with a position, could let herself be consumed by hatred like that. Tieu San fell silent. She gripped the chair, her gaze distant. I thought Lin was just jealous. I never expected her to go that far. Anyway, I only hope she realizes her mistakes soon. Hai nodded and looked at her for a long time. There was something in his eyes, compassion, worry, and admiration all at once. Before he left, he put a hand on Tieu San's shoulder. You and Ivy rest. Leave the rest to me and the authorities. From now on, I won't let anyone hurt you two again. That afternoon, after Hai left, a team of investigators came to Tieu San's house. They brought case files, a voice recorder, and several photos extracted from nearby security cameras where Ivy was taken. We need you to help with a few small details about the time Ivy disappeared, an officer said gently. Tieu San agreed. Though still exhausted, she tried to stay calm and cooperate fully. She recounted every moment of that day, from taking her child to school, to noticing Ivy was missing, to seeing unfamiliar people near the house. She tried to remember every small detail so nothing would be overlooked. When the investigators left, one man came back and spoke to her with gratitude. Thank you, Ms. Tieu San. Your cooperation brings us closer to clarifying the whole case. We believe we will soon find those behind Lin. The door closed. Tieu San sat down and sighed. Little Ivy ran over and hugged her, burying her head in her mother's shoulder. Tieu San smiled, kissed her forehead, and whispered, It's okay, darling, everything will be fine. I promise I'll protect you no matter what. Outside, evening light descended gently. The last cicadas of the season chimed, a reminder that life goes on after the storm, and that a mother's love and trust remain the brightest light. The next evening, just after sunset, Tieu San was tidying up dinner for Ivy when frantic knocking sounded at the door. She opened it in surprise. Standing there were her former mother-in-law and son, the man who had long been divorced from her. The mother-in-law entered without waiting to be invited, her look sharp and stern. Son followed, his face tense. I heard Ivy has returned, her voice rang cold as steel. Tieu San forced calm, yes, she's come back safely. Thank God. But the woman cut her off, her tone harsh. She's safe because of others, not you. You are no longer fit to raise my grandchild. I'm here to take her back to our family. Tieu San froze, her hand trembling at those words. She held Ivy close, voice choking. Mother, I understand your concern. But Ivy just suffered a huge shock, she's still frightened. Please let her stay with me a few more days so she can recover. When she's better, she can visit anytime. Her mother-in-law grew angrier. No. I don't trust you anymore. If you hadn't caused all those troubles, how could my granddaughter have been kidnapped? I will take her today. Son stood there, torn. He looked at Tieu San, then at his daughter, who clung to her mother, tears in her eyes. Son, Tieu San whispered, voice trembling, do you also want to take her? Son said nothing. He remained silent, eyes full of confusion, until a deep voice spoke from behind the door. The door opened and Hai stepped in. The light caught his face, his gaze was sharp but calm. What's going on here? He asked evenly but firmly. The mother-in-law snapped back. Who are you? This is a family matter, it doesn't concern outsiders. Hai looked straight at Son, his eyes hardening. I think you should hear the truth before you decide to take the child. The room seemed to freeze. Son frowned, what truth? Hai took another step forward, his tone low and each word cutting through the air. Lin, your lover, is the one who kidnapped Ivy. She confessed during questioning. All the evidence points to her. The revelation stunned Son and his mother. The mother-in-law went pale, Son stood in disbelief, his eyes wide. No, it can't be. Lin, how could she do that? She said she was helping me, she never. Hai interrupted. Helping you? By abducting your own daughter? Think about what would have happened if the police hadn't found her in time. Do you know what Tieu San and the child went through? The room grew heavy. The mother-in-law could only bow her head, gripping her sleeve. San lowered his eyes, his face showing shock and guilt. After a long moment she managed to say, I never thought she would do something like this. Hai looked at them, voice steady but resolute. I don't have the right to interfere in your private matters, but I will not allow anyone to hurt Tieu San and her child again. If you truly care about Ivy, let her live in peace. San clenched his fists, eyes reddened, then turned away. He said nothing more. His mother tugged at his arm, her face cold, her voice trembling with anger and shame. Let's go, son. There's nothing left to say here. The door slammed shut. Tieu San stood frozen, her chest tight, while little Ivy pressed against her, whispering softly. Mom, I'm scared Grandma will scold you. Tieu San smiled faintly and hugged her daughter close. It's okay, sweetheart. Mommy's here. No one will take you away again. Hai looked at the two of them, his expression softening. He said gently. You did well, Tieu San. You and your daughter just live peacefully now. Leave the rest to me. Outside, a light rain began to fall, as if washing away the darkness that had just unfolded. Inside the small house, only the warmth of motherly love remained, and the steady, protective gaze of Hai, the man who was ready to shield them no matter what storms lay ahead. After the tense confrontation, Tieu San sat quietly for a long while. Ivy had fallen asleep in her arms, her little face still showing traces of fear. Hai sat across from them, his eyes soft and full of compassion. His voice was low but warm. Don't be sad anymore, Tieu San. It's over now. What matters is that you and Ivy are safe. You need to rest and stop letting the past haunt you. Tieu San pressed her lips together and nodded. In her tired eyes flickered a faint light, as though Hai's words had soothed her pain. When Ivy woke up, Hai smiled. Hey, little princess, how about I take you and your mom out today? We need something fun, right? Ivy blinked, then laughed and nodded eagerly. Yes. I want to go with Mommy and Uncle Hai. Hai's car stopped in front of a small cafe by the lake, where colorful fish swam in glass tanks. The air was fresh, filled with children's laughter. Ivy squealed the moment she entered. Wow, fish. So many, Mommy. Hai sat beside her, taking out some fish food the cafe had prepared, and showed her how to feed them. Just sprinkle it gently like this. See? The fish will come right up. Ivy laughed delightedly as the little goldfish darted around. Tieu San sat quietly nearby, smiling, a rare, soft, genuine smile that hadn't graced her face for a long time. Hai watched her, his heart warming. He realized that sometimes the simplest, most peaceful moments were the happiest of all. After leaving the cafe, Hai took the mother and child for a walk by the lake. The afternoon breeze rippled across the water. The golden sunset stretched like silk over their three small silhouettes, a man, a woman, and a laughing child. Ivy toddled ahead, holding an ice cream cone, occasionally turning back to shout. Uncle Hai! Mommy! Hurry up! Hai laughed, pretending to chase her, making Ivy giggle uncontrollably. Tieu San walked behind, watching them, her heart swelling with warmth. The scene felt like a dream, one without hatred, without tears. Hai took a few photos, Ivy's bright laughter, the two of them sitting together on a bench by the lake. Looking at the pictures, he smiled softly. See? You two look so beautiful when you smile. Happiness shows right away. Tieu San turned to him, her eyes gentle. It's been a long time since I've felt like smiling from the heart. Thank you, Hai. He didn't answer, only smiled, a calm, kind smile. Inside him rose a quiet warmth, tinged with hope. As the sun sank behind the trees, the three of them sat together watching the light fade over the lake. Ivy leaned her head on her mother's shoulder, softly humming a children's tune. Hai sat beside them, his gaze resting tenderly on the pair. In that moment, no one spoke, but peace filled the air. Three people, three lives once torn by storms, now sat together, like a small, complete family. Hai turned to Tieu San and said softly, "Today, I think this might be the most beautiful day since I met you." Tieu San smiled, eyes glistening with tears of joy. "And for me, this is the happiest day since I had Ivy." The sun disappeared beyond the horizon, but their smiles remained bright, like a silent promise that after everything, happiness can bloom again, as long as the heart still knows how to love and believe.
Xin chào mọi người, rất vui được gặp lại mọi người trong video của mình. Chúc mọi người có một ngày mới an lành, hạnh phúc. Câu chuyện của Lý Tiểu San sau khi con gái của cô bị bắt cóc thì thật may mắn. Trong quá trình điều tra và nhờ có sự giúp đỡ của Hải thì Ivy cũng đã trở về với vòng tay của mẹ là Tiểu San. Nhưng biến cố lại ập tới khi người chồng và người mẹ chồng liên tục đến đòi Tiểu San phải giao con ra. Liệu Tiểu San sẽ phải làm gì? Cuộc hôn nhân của cô liệu có kết thúc trong êm đẹp hay không? Hay Sơn tiếp tục dùng ly hôn để ép buộc Tiểu San? Mọi người đón xem ở video tiếp theo nha. Cảm ơn mọi người đã xem hết video của hôm nay. Rất mong mọi người có thể ủng hộ kênh của mình trong thời gian sắp tới để mình có động lực ra nhiều video hơn. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại mọi người nha.